Okay, welcome back for Tales of the Nakshatra Gods. The last time we did this, we heard about Aditi. And that she had 8 kids. 8 very important kids that took over the sky. For her, she's the goddess of space, and they took over the local sky, being in charge of the local sky. And then last week, we really heard a lot about Martanda. We heard a lot about Martanda, the child who died and then came back to life and became the source of human beings, mortals, and remains in Punarvasu with Aditi. Now, Martanda is the Aditya for the sky after sunset. So this is where the sun is going to do a Punarvasu. This is where the sun is going to die. For the sake of being born someplace else, you can look at it that way, or for the sake of starting its journey to be reborn again in the east. So that's why Martanda or Punarvasu is sunsetish, and that's why Martanda is there in the west, below the horizon. Now today, we'll hear about Aryaman. Aryaman is the ruler of the next area of space. So the interesting thing about this is an 8-fold division rather than a 12-fold division. We talked about that last week. You can find the recording if you want to go back and see why there's 8 divisions, sometimes 12 divisions, sometimes. So it's not quite a 12-fold zodiac system, but there's an 8-fold system of dividing the sky. And the second half of the early night is owned by Aryaman. So if you hear about Aryaman's nature, you'll understand why he's there, and you'll learn important things about his nakshatra. Now, what is Aryaman's nakshatra? That is a bone of controversy. There was never a bone of controversy until the Taittiriya Brahmana came to light in recent years, last year, the year before, which is the book that I'm reading from. The book that I do this series on is my translation of that Taittiriya Brahmana. So we call it the Nakshatra Sutra. My book, of course, is called Nakshatra, the Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology, and the first half is the translation of the Nakshatra Sutra part of Taittiriya Brahmana. And in Taittiriya Brahmana, which is so old, it's a very old book, so it's the authenticity of it. You can't doubt that the ideas in it are original. They're the original ideas. So in this book, instead of saying that Aryaman's nakshatra is Uttara Phalguni, the author clearly and on several occasions and with purpose says that Aryaman's nakshatra is Purva. See, the common tradition is to have Aryaman's nakshatra be Uttara, the second Phalguni, but Taittiriya Brahmana has him as belonging in the first Phalguni. And then Bhaga, who by tradition belongs in the first Phalguni, according to Taittiriya Brahmana, belongs in the second. And it's not a mistake. It wasn't just like a copy mistake that some scribe made when they were copying the book one time, because it's found in a few places, I think 2 or 3 places, if I remember right, at least 2 places in the book, different places. And the way that the sutra is constructed has a logic to it. And also the classical sense of, the 6 types of nakshatras, which there's Ugra and then there's Dhruv nakshatras. And the Purva Phalgunis are always Ugra, which is male. A male trait is to be Ugra. Ugra means strong. And Dhruv is the female trait, which means patient. It's the female strength is patience. And the male strength is Ugra, which is a type of strength which is like force. So Purva nakshatras are always Ugra because they start things, and that's what men do. They start. They get things started. That's what Mars is all about. In contrast to Venus, getting something started. So he brings out that point in the sutra. So which nakshatra belongs to Aryaman? The evidence is that the Vedic people considered Aryaman's nakshatra to be Purva Phalguni and Bhaga's nakshatra to be... Bhaga is feminine. Bhaga is a god, but Bhaga is a feminine principle. So Bhaga, the feminine principle of pleasure, happiness, enjoyment, love, is in the second, the nakshatra that has the female quality to it, the Dhruv quality. Yep. So then, so there's another case where you have tradition being a bit different from classic definition. So I'm just going to treat it with tradition. That's just my way. So I'm going to tell you that anything that you learn about Aryaman, you should apply to what you know about Purva Phalguni. Okay. So what do you know about Aryaman? Anybody have a question about this point? You could raise it. I'll look at the chat. Maybe that might be all we do. But if you have a question, you can ask that. Right. What do we know about Aryaman? Eddie says he's devoted. Well, he says she doesn't know anything. So, you know about Hitler, right? You know what Hitler said? Hitler said that his race was the Aryan race. And do you know where he got that from? He got that from the Vedas. Of course, the Vedas didn't say the Germans are the Aryan race, but the Vedas, the Vedic people described themselves as Aryans. Because the god Arya is actually a god of promises. And this is why to this day, in many respects still in India, but certainly in Vedic culture, whenever you will make a promise to anybody, you'll say it in Aryaman's name. And this is why Aryaman is instrumental in wedding ceremonies. All the wedding ceremonies. Any Hindu wedding ceremony, even to this day, even various, whatever the specific type of Hinduism it is. I think 90% of them, is my estimate, will invoke Aryaman in part of the ritual. The key part of the ritual. Because there's a promise, a vow, we need Aryaman. Aryaman is the god of the vows, the god of the promises. And what is culture? What is a society? See, promises equals cooperation. Like, I promise you that I promise you I won't do this, or I promise you I will do this, or I promise you, right? That's basically what it is. I promise you I won't do this, or I promise you I will do this. Well, if you're going to belong to a society, you have to promise not to do certain things and to do certain things, right? Otherwise, the society is like, screw you, we don't need this in our society. Get out of here. So the culture, not just their culture, but to be cultured or civilized in Vedic idea was to be Aryan, which means that you would agree to abide by the promises that the society upholds. So a little bit, you can get there by 6 degrees of separation just from knowing that Hitler was into the Aryan race, and he got that from India, from Vedas, who described themselves as Aryans. The reason why they described themselves as Aryans is because they followed certain rules. We're the ones who follow these rules. We are the ones who keep the Aryan vows. The other people from other countries, they follow different rules. They're not Aryans. They follow other promises. They promise other things to each other. Or they don't make promises to each other. They're barbarians. So that's the nature of calling yourself Aryan. And even in India, like today in India, you got Arya Samaj, and you'll have like, we are Aryans, people that are like, we're Aryans. What does it mean? It means we're high class. We're high class. We follow the culture. So, does it mean that Purva Phalguni is high class? Yeah, in a sense, but understand the nature of what being high class means. It doesn't mean keeping your pinky up when you drink vodka. Being high class means you keep a promise. This is the important thing to learn from this nakshatra, is that the definition of being a good person in a social way is that you don't make promises that you don't keep. Now, read any book from the Vedic library. read Mahabharata, read Ramayana, read any Purana, 60% or more of the stories are going to be about how great it is that these people kept their promises. That's the whole thing that is constantly trying to be drilled into the readers of the Vedas and Puranas and Itihasas. Keep your promises and don't make promises that you can't keep. Because that's going to screw up society if you make a promise that you can't keep. Now, let's see what I have written. I haven't even read a little bit from my book yet. So, now this is even more interesting. Now, if you look up Aryaman in a Sanskrit dictionary, a very deep root meaning to the word is friendly. Aryaman means friendly. Like Eddie said, devoted. He said that Aryaman is devoted. So here's the idea. Devoted in the sense of I vow. That kind of sense. I vow, I'm devoted. I'm not going to deviate from this. And where does the concept of friendly come in? Hey, if I promise you that I'm going to follow these certain rules and I follow those promises, I'm your friend, right? We're cooperating. So Aryaman means cooperative. Aryaman means friendly. Aryaman means well-behaved. Or even if it's not well-behaved by somebody's judgment, it's cooperative behavior. Maybe I'll promise you that we'll go and raid and steal this, break into the convenience store together. That's still Aryaman, that I promised you that we're going to do it together and we're going to do it together. At least you know you can trust me and we're friends. Maybe we're criminals and we're friends. It might not always be well-behaved, but in some other context. But in the context of relationships, it's well-behaved in relationships. Right, so here now you're starting to get onto themes that are very, very important for understanding how either Phalguni works and especially how this Purva Phalguni works. Purva Phalguni is about being faithful, being trustworthy, being somebody that somebody can rely on, that you said this, so I know that you're going to do that. You're not going to say one thing and do another. And so this is really interesting because the two Phalgunis are very sexual stars and they're all about reproduction, fertility, and how men and women interact. That's what the word Phalguni means. Phalguni means to impregnate and create a fruit or to carry a fruit. And the word Bhaga is a word for genitals. Bhaga is one of the gods of Phalguni. Aryaman is the god who's invoked for marriage. Bhaga is another god invoked for marriage. It's all about marriage of male and female principles. That's the Phalguni. So what is the first thing that you need, the Purva, before your relationship can go anywhere? You need these types of things like friendliness, which means you can trust me. I'm on your team. We're going to do the same thing together. I'm not going to try to beat you because we're on the same team. We'll win together. We're friends. We're teammates. And you're going to follow these rules. I'm going to follow these rules too. You're going to not do these things. I won't do those things. You're going to do these things. I'll do those things. Let's go. We can trust each other. We can move forward together. That's the beginning of the relationship. That's going to lead to all kinds of beautiful things later in Uttara Phalguni. Bhaga, that's how you can get pleasure. People think that commitment in relationships is like a downer. A lot of people think that commitment in relationships is like the downer. It's like the thing you have to tolerate. But actually, it's just like it would be more fun if we could just go run around and have sex with anybody and just meet anybody and get in bed with them. But you can't. Like literally, you cannot connect with people. Physically, you might be able to touch them, but you can't actually connect to them unless you do the Purva Phalguni part first. Before you go to the Bhaga and the enjoyment and the pleasure of the Uttara Phalguni, you have to do the Aryaman of the Purva Phalguni, which is feel that you could trust these people. Even the guy, the singer for The Weeknd, who is not going to be considered as the most dharmic person in the world. But even this guy is saying, come show me your true colors. Because I want to know, like, can I trust you when I touch you? You have to establish that there's no fakery going on. Anybody, the thing about that guy is he's got a lot of experience. Like anybody who either is philosophically astute or has a practical experience in romance, who isn't dead in the brain cells, is going to come to this realization that you have to be able to connect to the person on a deep level. You won't open up to a person that you don't trust. So Purva Phalguni is all about establishing the trust in relationships, making things trustable. Okay, so the name Aryaman means friendly. Friends are partners who keep promises. And it's another thing that you'll learn when you learn about the nature of love. If you learn it through the Vedic paradigm, you'll learn that parenthood and romance are built on friendship, which is built on service. Friendship is built on service, keeping the interests of somebody else as being equal to yours. And that is built upon selflessness, not considering yourself to be more important than you really are. So here, when we get Purva Phalguni, we're at the stage of friendliness. Not friendliness as in let's just play games together, but friendliness in the terms that we are on the same team. You're not my enemy. Okay, so Vedic culture is also often described as Aryan culture because it is the culture of friendship. This is one beautiful thing about India that's kind of a little bit, not always so easy to see anymore. It's kind of becoming forgotten as India becomes less of India. But it is a warm place. It's like Italy a lot. Like Italian people can kind of feel at home in India because there's a lot of similarity to the warmth and how people treat each other and the lack of hiding that goes on. So Vedic culture especially was friendship because it was, but like, not necessarily like let's play games all day long, but friendship means we're on the same team. Mutual respect for everybody, no matter who or what they are, respecting that everybody can contribute to society in whatever way. This is 100% patented Vedic idea. So mutual respect, promises kept to one another. The most important moral principle in Vedic culture is to keep a promise. Bhishma Dev was willing to kill his nephews to keep his promise. Killing his nephews was less sinful than breaking his promise. That's how important Vedic culture kept promises to be. And all those promises would be made in Aryaman's name. Aryaman is especially important in marriage and the marriage ceremony because marriage is society's most significant alliance and promise. Okay, so this nakshatra Purva Phalguni is all about being able to establish a relationship. Now that is also a very male thing. Masculinity is the one who's supposed to make a move. Masculinity makes a move. Femininity draws out the move, inspires the move to be made. So the inceptive part of the spark or the beginning of things, the lead role, like the guy that's like leading, it's masculine principle that does that. It can sometimes be present in a woman more than in a man because of the nature of how complicated we all are. But the principle is a masculine principle. So getting a relationship established is Purva Phalguni and Aryaman. Keeping the relationship going, holding it together over the long term is Bhaga and Uttara Phalguni, and also enjoying it, making it beautiful. So now, another thing you might know about Aryaman is that he said that he's the foremost Pitri. So Pitri are the gods for Magha Nakshatra, and they are servants of Yama, who's Barney. So look, Barney, Magha, Phalguni, Purva Phalguni. Barney is very serious about rules. Magga is very serious about traditions, about following rules. And Uttara Phalguni is very serious about keeping promises. If you don't have it screwed up, Uttara Phalguni, you got something sturdy or a planet, like, I don't know. If through the regular zodiac, the planet is messed up and it's in Uttara Phalguni, whatever, somehow, if Uttara Phalguni is blessed, maybe by entirely different, we haven't really established how to use these nakshatras in interpretation, but at least we're getting clear pictures of what they do symbolize. But maybe it's through the older ways of interpreting titis, yogas, and all those things that we should read these. But if Purva Phalguni is good, you'll be serious about keeping your promises. And if it's bad, you won't be able to keep a promise. So this is why he's considered a Pitri. What did Pitri do? Pitri lead souls. After their death, they lead the soul to Yamaraj. What does Aryaman do with the sun after its death on the western horizon, where it goes through the Markandeya phase, dies to be reborn? Aryaman is the one who takes it down to the bottom, to Varuna, who is the king of the court. And Varuna is the original Yama. Before Varuna was disposited, he was the one doing what Yama now does. So the Vedas consider Aryaman to be the foremost Pitri because of his friendly nature and trustworthiness to his promise. This is why the Pitris appear to you as your ancestors, because you feel you can trust them. So they'll promise you, don't worry, come with us, you'll get through this. And then you agree to go with them, hopefully. So Aryaman's doing the same thing. Don't worry, you can trust me, we can go someplace together. His promise to us in our most difficult time to lead us through death onward to the next life is a promise that we can trust. So he's the foremost Aryaman. He's the most trustable. He's the foremost Pitri. He's the most trustable. His promise is the most. So similarly, as an Aditya, he rules the sky when the sun drops below the western horizon, symbolizing death, and enters the netherworld headed for Varuna's court of judgment. It is he who promises to bring the sun through the dark region and return it to the eastern sky where it can be reborn. So there's also some slight connection to Punarvasu, but it's not too strong. It's just like he's the handoff after Martanda, the soul is handed off. The sun, which is the soul, is handed off to Aryaman, who's going to ferry, the Greek idea of the ferryman, who's going to ferry the sun down to the nadir of the heavens, which is where Varuna has his border, where he begins. So what does it tell you about Purva Phalguni is that it is reliable and will inspire trust. Okay, so then I already made a video about Purva Phalguni. I already made a video about it and how this is really important for men. This is a real lesson for men in love life and how to be an attractive man. It's different than how a woman is an attractive woman. It's completely different. So, inspiring the confidence that you can deliver on your advertising, inspiring the confidence that you can deliver upon your promise is the way to go. And that's what Aryaman is. All right. I'm going to jump out the door and pick up my daughter from school. So I hope you found that interesting. And I will hop on here from time to time again. Okay, so sorry I didn't look at any questions today, but sometimes I don't. Okay, so see you soon. Bye-bye.